Hello, YouTube. Today we are going over Sour Apple and Corrosive Amara. I am doing one each of the skill augments, starting with Corrosive today. So, per the usual alignments, guns must be corrosive, and I am giving the caveat to the builds that whatever elemental augment you're using, so Blight Tiger for corrosive, must also have that tree skill capped. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the build. For what I've got currently equipped was what I was using for Guardian Takedown. I really liked Malawan setup for the corrosive build, and of course the Revolter really helped with having so many Guardians that are shield-based health, so having that extra little bit of shock was great. Overall, Corrosive Old God, adding that extra corrosive damage is great. Getting the Frozen Heart in there for the freezing of enemies around you to give you a little bit more space, and because the Nova on the Frozen Heart is a really large Nova, was really fun. As far as artifacts go, the Malawan Company Man, of course, was giving me extra damage for the Malawan for Guardian. However, I had a lot of fun with the Elemental Projector and Driver setup. Toboggan's always a great pick. Or, of course, my personal favorite's always the Snowdrift Victory Rush for the movement speed, and the stacking on the Victory Rush for your movement speed. The Pearl is also great if you like to run consecutive hits for your anoints. As always, I do like to put an EMP5 on my builds, only for movement speed. So we are not shooting the EMP5, but it is there to help us get around the maps a little faster. As far as grenades go, for the takedowns, I like to run Fish Slap, so you get that extra damage, especially when you're running into your immunes, throwing on like the fire here, or the shock Fish Slap to kill those corrosive immunes really fast. Fantastic. That being said, recurring Hex is always a great pickup, just for the extra amount of hits, spreading on either radiation, corrosive, or shock. I personally prefer keeping radiation because red explosions are really good. And for the con, after a lot of testing, I really preferred Phase Zerker for action skill cooldown, and that's mainly because in our tree we are not running Expedite, so having that extra cooldown from Phase Zerker was really nice. That being said, if you want to change around a little bit and give yourself a little bit more cooldown in the tree, the driver itself is absolutely amazing, especially if you're already spec'd into Green Tree, getting the movement speed and the extra damage because of using the driver from the movement speed air gun damage is absolutely fantastic. Personally, I like to use my abilities a lot, so I prefer the cooldown over the extra gun damage. But it kind of comes down to what your personal preference for your play. For guns, while I was running Malawan, I really enjoyed using the Beacon, the Flipper, and the Gibbs Worth. I do feel like a lot of people really forget how good the Beacon and the Gibbs Worth are overall, and they just really do amazing work. When I'm not running that and I'm running like my Snowdrift Victory Rush, I like to use the Roizen Thorns because it gets you a little bit extra damage from having corrosive and fire, so you can kind of hit two spots there. The light show's really fun on Amara. The Unkempt Herald, of course, just does some ridiculous things. The Gargoyle does great damage. I'm a huge lover of the Bloodstarved Beast. It feels great to shoot, it does a lot of damage, it's just all around a wonderful weapon. As always, on an Amara build, the Dark Army is going to do some absolutely ridiculous stuff. The Needle Gun was really great. The Breath of the Dying is always going to be a fantastic pick for corrosive damage. Uh, After that, pretty much the usuals are great. Monarch, Soul Render, Anarchy, Butcher, Kick Charger, Plague Bearer, Boogeyman. Can't really go wrong with any of the classic strong weapons. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the skill tree. For green tree, we're going 3 in personal space for the extra damage based on 2 in clarity for the health regeneration, 5 in arm steel for the extra splash damage. This is going to come in really handy with the in Gibbs Worth, 3 in Samsara for the extra gun damage and health regen, 5 in helping hands for the damage reduction after we use our skill, 3 in mindfulness for the extra movement speed, 3 in vigor for the extra movement speed, 1 in guardian angel, and if you don't like using guardian angel, you would rather use something else, I would most likely move skill point into 1 with nature, or up to clarity with a little bit more health regen. And of course, as the rule stated, we have to pick up the skill cap. So while it's not one that is really specifically used for damage on the build, it is nice to have. In Purple Tree, we did not pick anything up, and that was to allow us to get a little bit further in the blue and red trees. While it does kind of hurt to have Expedite out, we did compensate for that in a couple of spots, like using the Phase Zerker, and of course picking up Restless. Now, if you wanted to skip your 2 action skills and use Driver instead, I would take the skill points out of Blue Tree. So you got 5 from Rest, Remnant, and Avatar. Take the 3 out of Wrath, the 2 from Restless, and put them into Trust in Yourself and Heavy Rain, and then of course pick up your Expedite. So Blue Tree, we did 5 and do harm, so that we get extra damage whenever you use Andava or Fracture. And it also helps in places like Anathema whenever you're using Ties That Bind. Whenever you damage the guardians next to Anathema, you can actually complete that phase with enough damage from do harm. 3 in Fast Hands for the reload speed, 1 in Violent Tapestry for the extra status effect chance, 1 in Alacrity for the reload speed, 3 in Transcend for the accuracy and crit damage, 2 in Restless for the cooldown reduction on our action skill, 3 in Firm Rest for the fire rate and charge time. Especially with Guardian using the Malawan weapons, the charge time was really nice. 3 in Laid Bare, so that whenever we are damaging something with our action skill, they are taking increased damage overall, giving them a debuff. 3 in Wrath for the extra gun damage. 1 in Remnant. Remnant just does some crazy damage. So it's nice just having an extra, a little source of damage, especially when you're mobbing. 1 in Avatar, so that we can cast our skill twice. In Red Tree, the 1 in Anima is from our Phase Zerker. 3 in Steady Hands for weapon handling and accuracy. 5 in Infusion, so that a portion of our damage is our action skill damage, which is Corrosive. 5 in Tempest for elemental damage. 1 in Wildfire, mainly to get down the tree. You could put it in Illuminated Fist if you want to add a little bit more melee damage. However, I just like having that extra static effect chance to get down the tree. 1 in Dread, so that whenever Ties That Bind or Eternal Fist, we have some extra damage. And 3 in Indiscriminate, so that we get our ricochet chances, upping our damage a little bit. Now, as always, I like to point out that I do have all of the Guardian rank perks, meaning if you don't have Groundbreaker or Hollow Point, you might see a little bit of a difference in your damage, especially when you're using like the Fish Slap, getting a bunch of damage stacked up and then attacking with the Fish Slap. You can see a difference in your Groundbreaker there. That, guys, let's go ahead and get into the showcase and on takedown. We'll see you on the other side. Alright, guys, that has been the skill breakdown and showcase of our Apple Corrosive Amara build. For those of you on PC, there will be a link to the Discord down below in the description box where you can pick up a save file for this build. If you have anything specifically you would like to see next, let me know in the comments down below. And if you got all the way through this video, make sure you smack that like button. With that, guys, I've been your local sassy SwinLaw. Stay classy, Pandora.